Welcome to the Alpha Wolf Impact Club. I'm Tim Weintraut, and this is where we shine a light on small companies with big ideas. Our mission here is crystal clear. We want to identify, support, and champion game changers. Those companies that are tackling massive challenges, revolutionizing industries, saving lives, or making us more efficient. For example, today we have Allan Evans of Unusual Machines. Unusual Machines designs and manufactures drone components, motors, FPV video goggles, flight controllers, and more. Owns brands like Fat Shark and Rotor Riot, e-commerce for drone pilots. They sell both consumer drones and critical parts for defense, commercial, and public safety use. Recently expanded U.S. manufacturing, especially for NDAA compliant motors. Why they're an impact company? They support American supply chain, reduce reliance on Chinese made drone tech, and build in the U.S. for security and compliance. They drive job creation. They have recently added more than 30 people to their facility in Florida. And they enable life saving tech. Drones assembled and powered by their parts are used in rescue defense and emergency response. This is an impact company. And I'm going to let Allan tell you more about that in just a moment. This is not to be taken as investment advice. I am not a certified financial planner. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence.
Yeah.
Allan Evans from Unusual Machines, UMAC, is in the house. How's it going, Al?
Tim is pretty good. Did earnings last night. Did all the analyst calls. Get to talk to you. It's a Friday. I was thinking about traveling for the holidays, but with the government shutdown, it looks like a bad idea. So, I'm revisiting those plans and hoping that the government will open. The market's corrected a little bit, I think is what people are calling this, but it's you know, it's great. The world's wonderful.
Yeah,
How are
so
you?
I'm I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, government shutdown, the housing. The big short guy. What's his name? Michael. Yeah,
Bury, maybe?
Burry or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Basically betting against everybody. Um, yeah. I mean, this is perfect. Perfect. Heading into the holidays. I mean, people on food stamps may not get a meal. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I'm confused that we're arguing over healthcare and then choosing not to feed people to make the fight worse. But again, these things are beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wonder what can we all just get along?
I mean, if we did, I probably wouldn't have a company.
Valid point. Valid point.
But we
Yeah,
could get along better, right? Like I like sports. I like the competitive nature of things. I do think competition, generally healthy competition, it like makes it pushes us all forward faster. Like if we all just got along, I think we'd still be living in caves.
that's true.
So I think competition is the reason why we can talk over the internet right now. So not all competition is bad. And I think if it was a full kumbaya journey, like I said, this would be some sort of we would have never even built the pyramids. We'd still be sitting by the Nile and eating berries or something. So let's not go for all of us getting along. Let's just get along better.
Okay, that's a good idea. I like that idea. Let's get along better. So I
Yeah.
just read something about China and DJI and the government coming up with the final. I don't know. Can you tell me where is DJI right now in terms of having their drones here in 2026 or not here in 2026?
So the what it looks like. based on the last NDAA, is if they don't get a waiver, they'll be FCC banned, which means that DJI won't get approval on new products. So any product introduced through this year that they got an FCC approval for, they'll be able to sell and people will be able to use. It's just like the Mavic 5 won't be able to launch in the US.
Okay.
And so it's the way that the US government banned Huawei is it sort of creates a natural obsolescence cycle where they just can't launch new products in the US. So that it's not like it's a hard shutdown, it's not a hard kick out or any of those things, which I think would be bewildering for a lot of people, but it's more of a they won't be able to launch new products.
Okay. Which, I mean, if you know that they can't launch the new products, then it just kind of forces you to look for other alternatives, right?
Yeah, what I think it does is starts a clock on the requirement for replacement, which is probably 3 to 4 years out. Where companies like ours or other American drone companies, we will have to keep growing up and grow up fast to sort of be a substitute good in that 3 or 4 years when the current set of products start to reach their obsolescence cycle.
So that leads us into our to I guess a question about your numbers from yesterday. I mean, numbers were fairly good. I guess if you were going to nitpick, you could nitpick retail numbers, right?
Yeah, so enterprise was up, right? We almost doubled enterprise sales. We saw margin improvement because of that. We have 16 million in bookings going forward for the enterprise side over the next few quarters. We were profitable. So there's some good things in there, but if you want to go after it, I think we fell short of analysts' expectations on revenue and that our retail store didn't perform as well as it historically has. And small team, 19 people at the start of the quarter. The government had finally passed the bill, and we basically, I drained the staff and said, no, 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 you have to go focus on enterprise sales because the government fiscal cycle ends at the end of September. So like, go babysit these clients that have to spend money in 2 months, and a few things fell through the cracks, and so um, we had some stuff out of stock, so we didn't ship, so we can't gap recognize revenue. Since then, we hired a lot more people. We've backfilled it. I don't expect us to um, sort of operationally miss like that. But at the same time, if you look at best enterprise sales of all time, highest margin and 16 million in enterprise backlog, I think with the people that we had in house, we made the right choice on how to execute for the long term for the company. So I would do it all again.
And I wouldn't blame you, right? So I mean, look, you obviously you see it, you knew you made a conscious decision, right? But it was the right decision with what
Well, we'll know in another couple quarters if it was the right decision. That's the best part about my job, is I can say any decision is the right decision. You can't measure it for at least 6 months. So just like I pretty much you can measure decisions I made 6 months ago, basically, and be like, was it right or wrong? But we'll know in another quarter or two if it was the right decision. I think it is. I think it pushes us down the road, but that's I tell everybody this. Like a CEO's job is to make 6 right decisions a year.
right.
You don't know if they're right for months.
Yeah, that's true. But I think when we first met, the question was, are you too early? Right?
Yeah, it was the question, and I didn't think we were. And we went after it like we were a little bit too late. We operate with a lot of urgency, and now I think we're here just in time.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
So the government shutdown. I mean, if this goes on indefinitely,
yeah.
which is, I mean, I don't know what the hell is going to make people step up to the plate. I would have thought a bunch of people starving would do it, but apparently they're okay with people starving. I don't know. Um, I would want to believe that this is not going to last much longer, but then again, I don't know. There's some real stupid people out there, and I am concerned that we're going to go into a holiday season where a lot of people are hurting in a big way, and that is concerning to me. So, if this stays this way, how does that impact UMAC?
I mean, look, I said this on the call. We have 16 million in already set aside purchase orders. We got a consumer market. It'll probably hurt the consumer market, as you said, because people will be hurt. But we're scaling as fast as we can because the reality is that uh, the Department of War, and then also for the replacement for Chinese parts, people want drone parts. And all these markets are S curves. They start and people look and they're like, it's exponential. Well, that's the bottom of the S. And I think predicting the top of the S right now is a little tricky, but we're at the bottom of the S. So we're just going forward, trying to scale as fast as we can. So I think the next 3 or 4 quarters for us are light your hair on fire and run around until it gets put out. Kind of crazy as you try to scale and bring in people and everything else. We just added 30 new people on Monday, for instance. So going
Do you
after
have
that.
do you have any concerns that you're overstaffing?
No, because let's say we overstaff. Do I think the market, the top of the S curve is right here? No. So it just means we have more people trained for the next month or the next quarter when the demand is up. So would you rather train people too late or too early? Let's say we're pre-scaling, which it's pre-scaling risk is what we're talking about here. Let's say I have this completely wrong. Okay, so it cost us a couple $1 million to be ready rather than miss the market. Well, we have more than $130 million in the bank. We had a profitable quarter. Even if you take away our gains, we only spent $900,000 in cash for the quarter. So I'm willing to put a couple $1 million at risk.
Right.
Just to be ready in case the government comes back and wants the 1 million drones that they said they wanted today. In fact, if they want 100,000 drones, right? Like we got to go full speed. We got to build the supply chains. We have to do everything else. So no, I, I the risk reward and the opportunity to do the right thing, I think all align here to say, yeah, go ahead, go do it. No problem.
Right. Right. I mean, the demand isn't going to change. Um, and you weren't early, you were on time, and we may go through a little rough patch here, but what does that mean when we get to the other side of this rough patch? There's going to be a bunch of pent up demand that needs to happen like now, right?
Oh yeah. So what I think is really interesting, eh, the government buy cycle is like real noisy, right? But you have an idea what it's going to be. And the stock market's real noisy.
Right.
And so what we try to do as a company, if you look at our staircase financing strategy or at our sales scaling strategy, we try to basically be the steady line through the noise as the company, right? So we know that there'll be demand, so we'll scale. Do we care if it turns on now or in quarter 1? No. Like we need to scale and sell stuff. It's fine. We can reduce the noise. The same with like if you look at the retracement in share price. Well, we always talked about our financing strategy as being a staircase and we don't burn any money. So we raised $48 million at 970 a share. We raised $72 million at $15 a share. Okay, we're back to like 970 right now. All right, we don't need to go to do anything in the market, right? Nope, we're fine. And if it can oscillate above, it can do whatever, and we're well capitalized to execute. So I think for people, if you zoom out, um, somebody told me this once a long time ago, when in doubt, zoom out. If you do that and you look at our company, you'd be like, oh, just kind of steady. Like a smoothing function is really what we try like. And in doing that, I think not panicking, not being reactive or being like, everything's on fire, or being like, we're amazing. I'm the best CEO on the planet. Right? Like, I think just the steady truth that we're trying to do a thing and it takes time and consistency, and we're in a position to provide that consistency. I think that puts us in a really, really strong competitive position.
Does it help you at all? I mean, because of the fact that maybe things are slowing down. I mean, it is kind. I mean, you've got an idea of what's. I mean, you already have an idea of what's coming. You got a $16 million backlog, right? So, does it actually kind of? Does this kind of help you in a little bit in a way because you get to get some employees up to speed on things?
Yeah, it doesn't change our operations at all. So we're still going as fast as we
Okay.
can. It does two or three positive things for us. First, it takes away the exact delivery date pressure. So we're not compromising things to get stuff out the door so that our customers can integrate it to deliver. So we don't actually have to introduce inefficiencies to meet customer demands, right? We don't
Okay.
have somebody calling being like, I need this in 3 days. Great. So we don't have those injection inefficiency cycles in a ramp, which actually lets us ramp more effectively. It also pretty much nukes any undercapitalized competition, right? Like if you're not capitalized and you don't have any orders, you can't go finance setting up your supply chain. You're just kind of like sitting on your hands with your sweet prototypes, bleeding out your cash, and you'll be 9 months away from turning on, where it'll turn on and we'll be like, hi, we have stock. So then any non-customer of ours is now interested in being a customer of ours because we're willing to set up the supply chain in advance so they can still compete when the government market opens. So it's driven more people to us because of our big pile of money, which is nice. And when you look, like those are pretty positives. And then it's also wiped out market signaling for any actual major investment for real competitors. Like this level of uncertainty makes it hard to go to VCs and be like, yeah, let's build motor factories. How do you show me the PowerPoint that says this is a good idea, right? You just can't do that right now. So, because we're like, no, this is a good idea. We know what the customers need, and we can just smooth out the uncertainty from the customer side. Right. And we could also ride out any uncertainty in the market. Like I was joking, we could go down to $2 a share. Or we could buy back shares if we wanted to, whatever, because we don't burn cash. So there's not this like, oh crap, we run out of money cliff.
Right.
Right. I think our discipline in doing that, what's really cool about quarter 3 is we had money in quarter 3. We had raised another $50 million before that. We were profitable. And if you wipe that out, we still only burned 900K from operations. Like having money in the bank didn't change how we treat money. Right.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't take the private jet to a fancy hotel when I have a business meeting. I'm still a JetBlue
Actually,
Rewards
you
member,
are.
and I love Courtyard.
You know what I was gonna say, man. Even after you stay at a very humble hotel. You're not.
No, I stay in one with a little kitchenette, because if I don't, I got nowhere to put my water. I can't go to the grocery store and get some basic things because I like otherwise then it's hamburgers or all the beers at the bar or whatever. And like I'd look like a waterlogged version of me. It's hard enough as it is. So,
Yeah.
I'll take that complimentary breakfast. Those eggs are great.
And I like that about you, man. I mean, you're not out there. You stay humble, and I think that's a really good thing.
Hold on, let's not kid anyone. I'm not humble. Like I stay me, but
Practical,
practical. It's cheap. Those are fine, but humble. You can't do this job without some kind of ego.
right?
No, I mean that's because everybody always tells you no. They're always trying to be like, "Oh, your stock's down. You screwed up earnings." No, no, our plan's going fine. Oh, you're gonna get nuked, but here and here and here. Yeah, maybe, but probably not. Or early days of raising money, like 100 no's for every yes. You got to have a little conviction
Right.
in what you're doing when the world is telling you you're an idiot. And so you can't. It's hard to do this job if you're humble. But I have a theory that I call primary vice, where uh, no matter what the situation is, when it's really hard, when everything's frustrated, you kind of become your primary vice. And most leaders, they're either ego or greed. And I just have a very simple rule: don't let your ego get in the way of your greed. Just Like, if I'm greedy, I'm a big shareholder, I'm aligned with everyone. Like, I could be having the worst day on the planet, but you know what? That courtyard bed, I can still fall asleep on it because uh, why am I going to burn the house down when I can just, keep making it work?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
remind everybody not to let their ego get in the way of their greed. Like, I have ideas and I go into executive meetings and like my COO, my CFO, they'll be like, Alan, we don't think it's a good idea. You know what? We don't do it. Not unless I can convince them. Because again, just because it's my idea and all my ideas are great, Tim, we just talked about this, but I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of greed. And
right.
now if it's super high conviction and it's necessary, obviously I'll sit down and we'll have a conversation and they'll very often come around and understand what we're trying to do. But if they don't, we don't do it. Like so it's actually one of the things I look for in senior leadership. Right? You need people who are proud, who are willing to do the work, who are willing to be convicted on a thing. And it takes a little bit of ego to do that. But you want them to be in it for the win even more, because then everybody will work together and they'll all positively interact toward that collective win.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
like that whole approach, right? I mean, we've talked about it. I like your whole approach to how you hire, and it's not just a one person, or it's a group, kind of a group thing. The people that are going to be working with them, which makes sense, right? Why would you not want the people that are going to be working with them interviewing the person they're going to be working with, right?
Yeah. And I want all the senior ones to be just a little bit greedy. Not too much, like no, but when it really gets tough, you want them to generally be good people. But again, I think in certain situations, at some points, we all become our vices. Not for a long time or whatever, but it's once in a while. And so that's really how it's a strange, dark way to look at the world, but you know,
I like it.
ah, thanks.
I like it. So tell me about the hiring process. Do you feel as though, because I read on LinkedIn, one of your guys that I think that must have been doing the training for I guess soldering or something like that. Uh,
Yeah. So oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I think we did a really good job of building out our senior leadership layer. So I'd say in the last 4 or 5 months, we brought in Tom to do headsets. We brought in Jason to do supply chain, Brad doing the manufacturing, HR with Trish. So what we really look is to bring in sort of that layer of leadership and then let them go do their job. And being sure leadership's aligned, then everybody can go sort of function independently to reach the end goal. And then you don't have death by committee.
Right.
So I feel really good about where our leadership team's at. And now that's what enables us to go hire 30 people and just hit the ground running rather than have it be, bonkers clown car chaos. Is people know what they're doing and they're in a position to go do it.
You got some good candidates, right? It seemed like, at least from what I had read, there you kind of surprised at the amount of good candidates that you had to choose from.
Oh man, it's really cool. So again, I was a Silicon Valley startup kid, and like the really good candidates used to be able to sniff around at about that A round when a company was about to hit the corner. And so in that time period, you get these really great candidate pools. Well, that's what we had for candidate pools for hiring. And so when that's happening, you're like, all right, so I thought this was kind of magical. I feel like we got legs and this thing's going to take a real run, but it's kind of being validated by the people that are willing to leave these other positions and come work here in the early stage to help this thing rip. And, that's just one of those indicators that you don't always see or you don't realize. But when you go look at that quality of candidate for, like Al left the drone company he founded, Hoverfly, to come join us as a VP of engineering.
That's awesome.
Right? He's amazing as an engineering lead, and you don't do those things very often unless they're like the seeds of magic in a place. And talented people don't make that decision. Um, they can go anywhere, right? And so to have a bunch of candidates in that category apply, we're like, okay, there is something here. There's something, something's probably going to happen. And we have a lot of those indicators. So I'd say those are some of the breadcrumbs traders or whatever don't necessarily see because they haven't been through the operational trenches or through the mess of the early stage zones. And we're definitely seeing that. And that to me is one of the most exciting things is now we have sort of that next leadership roster pretty much fully flushed out with just extremely talented people. And, that puts us in a position for them to each build out below them. So now instead of it being serial, we can parallel path as we scale.
Right. If by chance, I don't know, if there was world peace like tomorrow, there's still going to be a huge need for drones, is there not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you look, just BB loss for flying around doing burrito delivery, scanning pipelines. One of my favorite applications is these cattle ranchers in northern Canada. They free range their cattle and they go wandering off and they hide in the woods and stuff. And they're over these huge chunks of land. They'll take a drone to go find them and then use horses to round them up. Yeah. But they how do they find the cows? Drone with a thermal camera. These, a whole chunk of the herd is way off somewhere strange. And they're like, found them. Let's go bring them back. It's a couple of companies doing window washing, saving time and money on that. Every cell phone tower pretty much in the US is inspected by drone. You look, there's all of these applications, not to mention the fact that let's say there is world peace, everybody will just start preparing for the next war. And so it's not going to stop the government from being like, we still need to do this. It'll be like, yeah, we probably still should do that.
Yeah.
So I think not just for conflict, because we sit on both sides, but I think there's going to be an overwhelming demand for a domestic ecosystem for components that'll extend for many years.
So Red Cat just had their the FPV drone that got on the blue.
Yeah, Fang got on the blue list.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who made that?
Yeah, well, Red Cat obviously made it, but it does use a lot of our parts. They use a lot of our parts.
Yeah.
So it's a really good FPV drone.
And that was a good thing, right? I thought that was a good thing.
Well, it means Jeff and I still get along. So let's take that for the first clue that we aren't, it's not fake. No, it's a great thing. They're a great customer. Jeff's great. And, our parts getting on there and it being blue mean, other people can probably buy our parts and get a drone on pretty quick because our parts are all approved.
It's cool when I see like Sam from Lightpath, after you guys have a little thing on LinkedIn, it's cool to see Sam chime in, and say something positive about UMAC, and you do the same thing. And I mean, there's just I love what I'm seeing within the industry, the camaraderie that is happening. I mean, it's beyond just single companies, I mean, it's the whole industry, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and it'll probably last another 3 years till we get to the top of the S curve and we're all fighting. But it's going to be a great 3 years. So let's, once we all start colliding in the world 3 or 4 years out as giant companies, it'll be it might be less warm and fuzzy. Probably not because we all get along. But the next generation of people that replace us to run it like stodgy primes somewhere in the deep dark might not like each other. But no, everybody's doing really great work and just really trying to displace and build the future, right? And collaborating to build the future rather than competing on a specific segment, because there's so much work to do. We can divide it up and there's so much opportunity in all the different parts of the work that, there's a mandate for us to get to parity with China as a sort of a drone supply chain and ecosystem. Capitalism is amazing. So because of that, yes, right? Let's say we get a $20 million order. Okay, how much can that be multiplied for people with risk and energy and the ability to show up and to pick winners quickly and then to pile huge amounts of resources behind those winners. So I think because of capitalism and because of the innovation and the drive that a lot of us have, and in part because we're all willing to sort of segment out and do our own pieces, I absolutely think we can get there. No, that's not to diminish what the Chinese have done, but I would say, they took a lot of what we were doing and were able to catch up. It's easier to play catch up because you know what's there and you know what you have to do, right? It's harder to keep pushing forward. So I think with capitalism and with the fact that in certain ways the template and what we need to do is already there, we have the ability to catch up pretty quickly.
I think I mean, you kind of said it earlier, was with, if we had world peace, if everything was kumbaya, there is no incentive to innovate, there's no ingenuity, there's no, right? I mean, it is the competition that fosters those things, right? And
Yeah,
if
even nonviolent. Look at the space race. Like all that occurred during the Cold War, and then NASA and everything kind of got soft in the late '80s, early '90s when the Cold War ended, and it took Elon Musk being like, "No, we need to go back to space to really drive progress there."
right,
Saw the same thing with nuclear energy, right? And the Cold War kind of ended, and so nuclear energy diminished, even though it's a super green technology, and now we're finally back to it as a thing to look at. And so I think competition, not necessarily conflict, is brings out the best in people because it encourages risk and risk
right,
taking behavior. Right? If there's no competition, there's no reason to take risk.
agreed, agreed,
So then there's no reason to try to do something innovative, but very like we have a bias where we only recognize the winners. So a long time ago, because I came out of, like I said, out of Silicon Valley, I know a lot of people who had great ideas and didn't make millions of dollars. So I wanted to write a book called The Silicon Valley Silver Medalists to tell the story of like the people that kind of pushed the future but missed the payday. Uh, but it's the payday winners, it's the big winners out there that um, and the ability to win that cause people in these time periods of competition to be willing to take risks or try innovative ideas because there's a gain. Either you win the competition like a sporting event, or you get to drive wealth one way or another or whatever. And so I think competition's great.
right. And I agree 100%. I actually think that, just like with what's happening with AI right now. I mean, there are a lot of companies out there that are pushing to solve problems, right? And I mean, I love that kind of thing. I love that challenge, taking on a challenge that nobody else is taking on because it just seemed too big or too ominous. But that's I mean, we have proven over and over and over again that we are capable of doing things that no one thought could be capable of doing, right?
Oh yeah, I think it was Bill Gates who once said, "Hey, look, in 1 year the future's not going to be as far along as you want it to be, but in 10 years the world's going to be changed so much you don't recognize it." And so I think part of that success is sort of generic thesis, commitment to following through on the generic thesis. Right? Pick our small chunk of the world as an example. We said, "Hey, we're probably going to need to onshore drone parts." We're still saying, "Hey, we probably need to onshore drone parts at scale." Okay, and once we see that, then it'll be like, "Hey, all right, now that the parts supply quality is there, now there's the chance to build products that are competitive." But, if you have terrible ingredients, you're never going to make a delicious dinner. And so we have the obligation to make good ingredients so the drone companies can make good drones.
Right. Any do you see the industry heading anywhere? I mean, I know that the fiber, was it the fiber line? I mean,
Yeah.
that's become kind of a big thing, right?
Yeah, it is. And we've done integrations. We have a Rotor Riot video where we did an integration with L3 Harris. So we made our stuff work with fiber. So that's cool.
So
Like I said, we do other parts. L3 does the fiber part. It's cool.
But you are staying on top of where things are heading. I mean, do you see anything? Well, you probably wouldn't tell me anyway if you did. Why would you? Why would you give up that edge? You probably wouldn't. That's probably a dumb question. I'm retracting the question.
I accept your retraction and I will not indicate. It's a little safer now that we're capitalized and getting bigger, but I probably can't share maybe a more interesting roadmap for the future for another 6 months.
But you have one. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just going to let that silence sit for a minute.
yeah, I mean, yes, Tim. There is a plan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I just checked,
yeah,
man.
yeah. There's a plan, Tim. There's a plan. It's we got to get through scaling first, and then we can start to layer pieces of the next part of the plan on top of that. But there's a 3 to 5 year plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. It's pretty easy. No one is trying to replace DJI in the US. Replacing DJI is a $10 billion market opportunity.
At some point, somebody's got to take a shot at it. You always got to go for the title, man. You know what I mean?
That's how I feel. Like, we go back to the ego greed thing. It fills both. It fills both tanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I think, like, if we look at SpaceX, they did a really good job of staggering in value along the way, right? So let's say SpaceX never gets to Mars, and I'm not saying that they're never going to get to Mars, but the stated goal of getting to Mars and making people a multiplanetary species, they did Starlink on the way, and Starlink's awesome and makes a ton of money, right? And so when you look, it's very important if you're going to go try to do something and you're not a moonshot out of Google where you have infinite AdWords money to cook for 10 years, that you stage in value and proof points and scale. Because if you try to go all the way to the end goal, you miss all the market feedback along the way. And so the first thing that we need in the US is a low-cost components industry. And the biggest driver of volume is attritable drones right now for the Department of War. So it's extremely important for us to succeed in building the parts industry and the powertrain and everything else for that demand cycle so that we have that initial capability demonstrated and existing for us to use as a platform to go do the next thing. And as a proof point for people to come in and drive investment. And that's what matches our staircase investment strategy. So if you said, hey, long-term goal, have awesome consumer prosumer drones at a value point that matches where the Chinese are going. Yeah, that's a huge, wide open market. And I think it's here whether we like it or not in 4 years. But the first step in getting there is building high volume component supply chain. And so that's what we're doing right now. And then there's some steps in between here and there that we can disclose later, but with a long-term goal of enabling, what we think is necessary, which is a high quality product that matches the Mavic and the Mavic Pro.
I mean, as you scale, how many parts could you have? I mean, because there are a bunch of different sizes of drones. There's different size propellers. There's different size, case. All that stuff, right? So how many parts literally could you wind up having in that you are responsible for making?
We try to reduce it a lot. So right now we're only doing 3 motor sizes. What's interesting is, like 3 motor sizes, and we're only working on the smaller drones because that's the consumer electronics supply chain that China dominated. That's where we see the biggest gap. And 6 months ago, we had all the first potential customers be like, nah, we're using this size motor, et cetera. Much more recently, now that we have these three sizes coming off the line, they're like, actually, that one might work. You're right. So we can't offer everything out there. We have to offer a smaller number of things to do high quality, high quantity. But we're because we have a lot of people with a lot of experience in the drone industry, we're pretty good about picking things that aren't that different.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like imagine you're in Europe and you have to buy an EU size shoe. You know, you're buying a 44 and a half instead of whatever, an 8.5 that you'd buy in the US. You know, it still pretty much fits. Right. And that's the kind of thing, like we have to make those decisions and decide literally to not do everything, because then we wouldn't do anything well. And so if we do a smaller number of things that we think will work for most people and we do them well, I think most of the engineering teams are willing to adapt to a low cost, high volume, reliable supply chain.
I mean, how big do you foresee eventually? Well, I'm not going to go there again. I'm stopping. I'm cutting myself off.
How big do we see the company eventually being?
Yeah.
Well, if you look, and we're roughly $500 a part on an attritable, $500 of parts on an attritable drone. You know, that's public information from the 101st. If they're serious and they want to do 1 million drones this year, you could say, well, that's a $500 million market opportunity. Do I think we could grow that fast? Not this year. You know, I'd love to say yes, but no, we probably can't. But we try our hardest. And then if you said, hey, if we're able to be a big part of replacing DJI, that's probably a $10 billion company. Like, how big of a part of that can we be? You know, so I think there's the opportunity here to build a really big, successful company. Remember, I come out of venture. Like, I'm not here to run a restaurant group. Like, it's not exciting if it's not crazy to me. Like, it's just not. If there's not a chance to go from zero to like as big as possible in 5 years or whatever, I don't know. There's like, it's missing that rush, that adrenaline hit. That again, it's trying to grow really fast is like driving a race car. Like the faster you go, the more attention you have to pay, and the more every right decision and wrong decision, the more consequence there is. And so, in that way, I'm sort of a business adrenaline junkie. Right? Like we're going so fast that a right decision has huge implications. Pass a guy or something. And a wrong decision means we spun out and smashed into the wall. All right. It's a rush. It's a rush. Yeah, I don't have to shut off. I get to go as fast as possible. And we're getting a bunch of like-minded people who are like, all right, the race is on. Let's go. You know, and we just got fresh tires and a whole bunch of fuel. Like we don't have to pit again for a long time. If you look at where we're at. Right. And right now people be like, well, you're going kind of slow. And I'm like, well, look at all the other cars. It's raining. All right. Like we're all going a little slow.
You know, I will tell you, if the parts, I guess the hardware business has always been for me. It's been a space that I don't like to be in, because it's eroding margins constantly. All right. I mean, that's what it seems to be for computers, everything, right? I mean, it's just,
you know what my favorite parts company is?
What?
NVIDIA. They make parts.
Very specialized parts, Allan.
They still make parts.
That's true. That's true.
And they started by making just graphics cards for computers. Mm-hmm. And they just kept making parts.
Yeah.
Parts for computers.
Yeah.
They don't even make the computers. They're just a parts company.
Yeah.
And
right.
They started with this tiny market people didn't even know of, computer games. And they did that in the 90s. Mm-hmm. 20 years later, they're the largest company in the world? Everybody's undergoing Gensanity. It's great. But NVIDIA is a parts company.
You make a valid point. Samsung actually started as a dried fish company.
You can't go back 120 years to the old Japanese companies. That's not fair. That's not fair. You got to pick companies that are less than 50 years old or less.
Samsung,
50 years old or less.
one of the biggest companies in the world now, just so you know. No, you're right. I mean, you're right. They are very specialized, and maybe Alan, maybe that happens in the drone industry. Maybe, but then again, this is really, as I look at Allan Evans, this could,
He's got a great hat.
who knows where this launches unusual machines too, right?
Drones are just one kind of robot.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And so, right, like there's this market vacuum to make a company that's pretty darn big. But if you look at DJI, they're doing a whole bunch more in robotics now in China. All the drone stuff maps pretty well to a lot of other activities once you're there. And so, if you really want to look, without the component supply chain, you can't build the integrated systems, you can't build the robots, you can't solve the problems. If you don't think AI is about to manifest in the physical world through autonomous cars and other robotics in a way that we can't comprehend for 15 years from now, then we should sit down, have a cup of coffee, pull out crayons, and I'll draw you the future. Like it's just what it is. Like it's going to be, I think we're about to undergo the greatest sort of home industrial information revolution that we've seen since electricity was pushed wide scale. And we saw new elements there. As you see a mix of robotics and AI start to be implemented in a way that, again, changes the entire dynamic of not only the home, but the workplace. And I think that's going to be a major macro driver trend that is wildly deflationary and makes us all that much richer again from a relative perspective to where we sit today in 30 years. And so whether there's a government shutdown or whether the market's down or up or whatever, generally speaking, every day I wake up, I realize it's the best day in the history of the world. Right? Could you imagine 20 years ago, we can record this, transmit it to everybody, do it remotely, and do it over video? If we went back to 1960 and had this technology, we'd either be celebrated as techno gods or crucified as dark wizards. And that's in 1960.
Yep.
Look, I have a magic piece of glass. Heretic. Heretic.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad you actually said that, because as all the crap that's out there that people are constantly being barraged with, the human beings are amazing. We are amazing. I mean, we can be amazing. We've been incredibly weird lately, but I think that if you still look at what is happening around you, it's so amazing. The things I just listened to a podcast yesterday of this doctor talking about reversing aging. I mean, because of AI and deep machine learning and what they're learning with the genome and I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. I'll take, like, look, we figured out mechanical elements like hip replacements, knee replacements, all that stuff's gotten so much better in the last 30 years. The next thing I think is going to be plumbing, like the cardiac, the proteins in the blood and stuff, and then eventually probably the genome. And like, yeah, personalized medicine is going to be awesome. And you know what? I'm here for it. Like, hopefully it comes sooner rather than later, because obviously with my expectation of it, I'm willing to do a little more damage to myself. It's almost like in a video game, if you get hurt or die, you can just reset. Like the reset button's not there yet, but I kind of treat it like I got a pretty big life bar. You're like, oh, I got dinged. I'll be fine. So, I'm basically counting on that outcome. So let's hope it shows up. But no, the one thing that I think people forget is it takes the collective energies of people all collaborating to achieve these outcomes. And so that's where, like, us having a bunch of money or a bunch of customers are aggregating. We're now in this position, and why I'm so excited about our leadership team and scaling, we're starting to be able to bring greater collaboration together. and have more people contribute to the same purpose. And I think as that collaboration continues to scale, and I think that's where, us working with Jeff or with Sam at Lightpath, or, co-investing with Eric and Ondis, or a lot of these, this collaboration as we all work to the same objective, brings that objective faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, scaling a company and why companies can start to accelerate rather than slow down, is because if they are cohesive in that collaboration, like there's nothing that can get in the way of people that are willing to spend time and energy and work together for a significant period of time. Like, just it's incredible. And then it's incredible what we can build on top of what's been built, or on top of each other. And so, where I appreciate all the doomsday, all the doomsaying, I love it, because what it does is it does encourage a whole bunch of people to prevent the negative scenario.
Yeah.
Like, you get a whole bunch of people who take the doomsayer as a prophet, and they're like, we must stop it. Awesome. I love that collaboration. And it's great because it's why I can be positive, is I know there'll be enough people that like fall in line to the negative, that I'll just try to get people to collaborate on the positive and really push toward futures that science fiction writers have already told us are inevitable. And like, they've been right throughout the history of our existence. And so you're like, well, they're probably going to be right about this too. Let's get to work. And it's exciting. It's exciting now with more people to be able to collaborate and continue to get to do that work.
Right.
And so I don't really pay too much attention to government shutdown, government open. Look, government's going to buy drones. Fine. I know that. Other people are going to buy drones. If they're going to buy drones, they're going to need drone parts. Yeah. Okay. And their drones are going to suck if the parts suck. Their drones are going to be expensive if the parts are expensive. So for us to have the government, the people, the taxpayers, the companies have good, reasonably priced drones, we need to start with good, reasonably priced parts. And so we have an obligation at the front of this whole chain to go try as hard as we can to scale as fast as we can to make that true. And so we really look at it like, it's kind of, the market's there. Like, can I point to the specific things? Kind of, but I don't have to. Like, this is obvious. And we're at the start of an S curve. And at the start of the S curve, it's exponential. And people are like, well, where's the top of the S curve? And I'm like, ask me that in a year. Like, let me get up the start of the S curve and look up. I want to turn the corner and be like, oh, nope, can't see it yet. Let's keep going.
Right.
Right. And so that's what we're looking at.
Can I make one? So there was a big hullabaloo over the fact that you had you won contracts, and you happen to have a certain individual on your board.
Yeah.
Is that the dumbest thing ever?
I don't think winning contracts is dumb, and I don't think having advisors is dumb. I don't think putting them together is dumb. Am I missing the question?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Possibly.
There's a little bit of a downside in that, like, that particular customer was super fully audited. They had to go through more hoops and got more double checks and everything to be sure that. So what happens is we end up, we have to be extra disciplined about being transparent and high integrity and everything else. But the benefits of the awareness and the discipline that we have to demonstrate that integrity, and then our customers seeing that we operate with that integrity, ends up being a long-term, very strong long-term positive.
Right.
Right. But it just means, we have to do things with more integrity.
I was actually going to say that it almost is. It almost could be viewed as it creates more of a magnifying glass on you, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll take the magnifying glass because it drives awareness. It means everyone knows our name. So when they want parts, we're like the first company they call.
One thing you have been since day one is very transparent, right? One of the most transparent guys I've ever come across. Straight shooter.
I try to be
transparent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we owe that to people. We're trying to build the future. Like, we're going to be wrong about some stuff, but if we're not willing to put a stake in the ground and guess or go after it, and we're not willing to respect owners of the company, which anybody who owns one share is, with what we're doing with the company, then why should they bother to own it?
Right. Allan
Right.
Evans,
So,
I love what you're doing. I don't know if we'll have another interview before the end of the year, into the holidays, but if we
I
don't,
mean, we could just put on Santa hats and do a Christmas
we
special.
could do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Have some
be open
eggnog.
minded about it.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
I think we're gonna do it.
Not too much though, because that much dairy might cause issues. Ugh. Eh. Let's at 45 minutes if we're having eggnog, just because the dairy issues. You won't want me to be on the call after that.
You feel as though I missed anything here?
No, I'm hey, really appreciate the time. Wanted to give an update. I think you've driven more into the long term stuff than maybe anybody else ever at this point. So hopefully for anybody paying attention, there's that. I do think, I like to leave one teaser at the very end of all of this. And the one thing you didn't ask me about that I said on the call is we'd probably have to think about starting to do batteries next
Oh, yeah.
to do the drone powertrains. It's okay. So I would say, now that you know what we ultimately want to try to do, you'd figure we'd probably go look at doing batteries next. When and how, we'll leave that up to the discretion of the individual to use their imagination. But yeah, that's about all I got. I wouldn't want to leave anybody without an ending teaser of some sort. That's unfair.
That was a good one too. That was really good.
I mean, yeah, thank you.
You know
Thank
what?
you.
I love those because it keeps them all the way to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're done listening to us about the time we're talking to SpaceX. Otherwise, they're like, crap, And then we have to add another 20 seconds here at the end. That way they don't just scan to the end for like the final thing. They'll have to scrub backward and then they'll just be like, nah, I'll listen to the audio on, going to the gym.
You think?
So thanks. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Do you think you're gonna get a big? You think lithium batteries are gonna stay the battery type of choice?
I think there's different things for different things, but I would say lithium is
It's
so
still gonna be
everywhere and it works so well that you don't move away from supply chains that quickly.
right.
Like there could be a brand new battery, but it wouldn't be commoditized for 5 to 10 years. So lithium would still be everywhere. Right. We still use double A's, alkaline double A's right? Like they're still in stuff. So
A's, right.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to go away. Right.
No.
I think you might just see other things added.
Okay. All right, Allan.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, brother. All right. We'll talk soon. Appreciate it. All right. Hold on one second. I'm going to shut this off. Thank you for tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Capital. Today we had Allan Evans of UMAC. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf Capital, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Till next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Capital wishes you the very best of success.